this is Gretchen from River Color Studio. Today we're going to be talking about embellishing your finished projects. This can be done on something that you have knitted yourself, or it can be done on something that you have purchased in a store if you'd like to personalize it. It makes for a great quick gift, particularly when it's turning into crunch time as the holidays get closer and closer. You can use the techniques that we're going to talk about to turn something that's relatively plain, like this fingerless mitt, into something that has a lot more personality. And there were 3 techniques that we used in order to finish this. We're going to talk about one of those techniques in this video, and then we'll cover the other ones in subsequent videos. So today we're going to talk about chain stitch, which is what we use to make this sort of vine-looking thing along here. In order to do the chain stitch, what you're going to need to do is get a darning needle threaded with a yarn that you think complements your finished project. Here we've chosen to use Tosh Merino Light, which coincidentally comes in some nice small amounts of yarn. They're called unicorn tails, and this is a significantly smaller portion of yarn than you would get in a standard skein. It's nice because it's economical and it lets you get a bunch of different really nice colors for not a huge investment. This could also be done with scrap yarn that you have at home as well, but sometimes it's nice to have one of the fresh colors to do your work with. So what I have done is I've got it threaded onto my needle, and here I'm using 2 strands held together just because we wanted to be able to show it in relatively good detail on the video. You can do it with a single strand, or you can do it with 3 or more strands held together depending on how thick you want your finished embroidery to be. To start off, what you do is anchor the tail of the yarn on the back side the same way that you would anchor a tail when you were finishing your work. And then bring the yarn up to the front where you want to start the chain stitching to begin. And we're going to take the needle and insert it back through the same hole that we came up onto the front, and we're going to insert it into that hole, and then we're going to rock it back up to the surface. Now you'll notice that when I rock it back up to the surface, it's about a pinky fingertip length away from where it went down under the surface. I'm going to use that as my stitch length for this video because it helps to make it a consistent length, and it also is something that I don't have to pull a ruler out every time I want to measure something. I can just pull my pinky out. You can make the stitches larger than this, but keep in mind that larger stitches are going to have more thread that is relatively loose on the front side of your fabric. So particularly if you're making something for children, you want to make certain that everything is sort of tacked down as best you can so that it doesn't end up getting caught on things or pulling the embroidery out of whack. So what we're going to do is, now that we've got it rocked back up to the surface, we're going to take the tail of the yarn here, we're going to pull it underneath the needle. And then when I pull the needle through, you'll see that that makes a nice teardrop shape with our thread coming out of the bottom of the teardrop. And that's all there is to it. We go back down through the same hole, we rock it back up, we pull the yarn underneath like that, and then when we pull the yarn through, it makes another teardrop that interlocks with the previous one. These are a lot of fun to do, and they're relatively quick, particularly because you're doing everything on the front side of the work. I just have my left hand underneath the fabric so that I make certain that I'm not stitching the front of the piece to the back of the piece. When you get to the end of the piece that you're doing, you can finish it off quite easily by doing your last chain stitch and then taking the yarn and going back through the same hole and ending it on the back side of your fabric. And you'll see that just puts a little tiny blip down there at the bottom, but it ends off that last loop and keeps everything nice and secure. And then on the back side you would go ahead and bury your tail or move over to the next section that you're going to be embroidering. This stitch is excellent for making things like vines or tree trunks. It's also excellent for outlining things. You can also use it to add monograms to things. So if you purchase, say for example, a hat and you want to put someone's name on it or their initials, this would be a great way to go to do that. So I hope that you have learned a little bit about how to do the chain stitch today, and check out our website for more videos on how to do French knots and how to do the crocheted trim around the edges. Have a great day.